Welcome to the House of Lore, a quiet space where stories drift gently through the rooms, each one crafted to help you relax, unwind, and settle softly into the folds of sleep. Tonight's journey begins with something we rarely see, but always feel. This episode is called Invisible Frontiers, and we begin with the first unseen force all around us, the air. If you find peace in the gentle drift of these stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. You're always welcome here. Let us begin with a thought. What does it mean to measure something that we cannot see, something that slips past the eyes, but brushes the skin, fills the lungs, and moves the clouds? Air surrounds us completely, and yet we rarely think about it. We open a window and feel a breeze. We step outside and notice the wind tugging at our sleeves. We breathe in and draw life quietly into our chest. All these moments are simple, ordinary, and invisible. But behind their simplicity lies wonder, a kind of quiet companionship with the unseen. For as long as people have walked the earth, they've lived beside this invisible presence. Air, without shape, without color, without sound, unless it moves. How then can something so hidden be known? The answer begins with the gentle art of noticing and then measuring. To measure the air is to admit a kind of trust in senses beyond sight, in instruments built to detect what eyes do not, and in patterns that can be felt before they are ever seen. Long ago, humans learned to feel the pressure of the wind on their cheeks, watch the dance of leaves in the trees, or the lift of birds carried on a thermal rise. Even now, we hear the hush of wind weaving through the grass, soft as breath against the land, and in that hush lives the first language of air. Isn't it curious that something so vital could remain invisible to us, and yet we've given it names, measured its pressure, its weight, its speed. We created barometers, gently balanced instruments that feel the weight of the atmosphere pressing down, thermometers to sense its warmth and coolness, and anemometers, spun by wind, to read the speed at which the air moves. These tools, like soft translators, reveal what air whispers in silence. We build our homes to channel its flow. We rely on it to lift planes into an easy floating arc. We listen to the forecast and plan our days by the breath of the sky. So much from something you cannot hold. The more we look, the more the invisible becomes a canvas for understanding. And in that knowing, the air becomes not just what we breathe, but a gentle partner in our lives. As you rest here tonight, let your breath be a reminder, in and out. Slow and natural, you are moving with the same force that carves canyons and lifts the wings of birds. A quiet rhythm, an invisible frontier. Magnets. They are simple objects, really. Bits of metal you might find on a refrigerator or tucked away in a toolbox. And yet, they reveal to us something quietly astonishing: the presence of invisible forces. These unseen threads, magnetic fields, reach out from a magnet's core and pass through the air, through surfaces, sometimes even through us, without ever leaving a trace we can physically touch or see. And yet, we feel their presence when a magnet pulls a paperclip close, when two like poles refuse to meet. There's no light or sound to mark it, but the effect is real. Magnetism reminds us that not all forces in life are visible. Some operate in silence, constant and reliable. They're part of nature's careful fabric, woven through time and space. Among these is one that affects every one of us. A vast magnetic field, generated not by a household magnet, but by our Earth itself. Deep beneath our feet, swirling molten iron moves in the Earth's outer core. Its motion, slow and steady, gives rise to a magnetic field that extends far beyond the atmosphere. This enormous field shields us from charged particles that stream in from space, from the sun's solar wind. It makes possible the auroras, those shimmering veils of light in polar skies. And for centuries, people have used simple tools to connect to this hidden thread. The compass, for example. Inside its small frame rests a magnetized needle, free to turn. It is patiently drawn north, aligning itself with Earth's magnetic field. An unassuming instrument, but one that has guided travelers across oceans, through forests, and into worlds unseen. Today, new tools help uncover much more. Scientists now use sensitive magnetometers, devices that measure tiny changes in magnetic strength around us. These can detect the presence of magnetic materials in the soil, or monitor fluctuations in the Earth's field during solar storms. Some even use magnetic sensing to study tiny particles drifting quietly through the air. Iron-rich dust, soot from combustion, fragments of meteorite, particles our eyes cannot see, may carry minute magnetic signatures. With delicate equipment, researchers trace these invisible threads, mapping airborne materials as they travel the atmosphere. Winds may scatter them over oceans, across mountains, or into our cities, and magnetism whispers their story. It's a story not told in words, but written in fields, invisible, yet always present. And so under quiet stars, the same magnetic lines that guided ancient travelers continue to arc and stretch across the sky. Threads of force that connect our world in ways we are still learning to see. In a world filled with signals and sensations we cannot touch, magnetism is a gentle reminder. The invisible is never too far away. In the hush of twilight, as the air settles and night draws close, the world grows quieter. But even in stillness, the air is never truly empty. Within each breath we take lie particles too small to see. These tiny flecks, fragments of dust, droplets of moisture, wisps of pollen, or threads of smoke, drift silently through the spaces around us. They seem weightless, invisible, and yet they carry meaning and weight. To understand them, we begin by measuring what we cannot touch. Light becomes our lens. By shining narrow beams through the air, scientists observe how particles scatter that light. It's called light scattering, an elegant method for revealing the unseen. When tiny particles pass through a beam, they bend and reflect the light at handsomely subtle angles. Sensors placed at just the right positions detect these tiny shifts. And from this soft choreography of illumination, we learn about the particles' size, number, and even their nature. These measurements help form something called PM levels, short for particulate matter. PM2. 5 denotes particles smaller than 2.5 microns across. So small they drift deep into the lungs, unseen and often unnoticed. Air quality sensors, often no bigger than a cup of tea, reveal patterns that our senses cannot. They whisper of lingering smoke after a distant fire, of soot rising quietly beside turning tires and shifting engines, of desert dust carried for miles on a breeze as soft as breath. Each sensor sip of air is compared with gentle thresholds, helping us understand how any given moment's breath might carry ease or caution. Pollution is not always the thick smog seen over cities. Often it is this fine, dry dust, nearly invisible but ever present. What we cannot see can still touch us deeply. In clean mountain air, these senses confirm what we feel. Clarity, lightness, a cool stillness. Fewer particles, less scattering, greater peace. But in our homes and cities, day and night, the interplay of movement and materials releases fragments into the air, from cooking, from sweeping, even from the gentle rub of textiles. So we watch, quietly and carefully. The measurement of air becomes the quiet story of our shared breath, of light meeting dust, and dust giving shape to the air around us. And though each particle of dust weighs almost nothing, together, they carry the weight of change. As night deepens, and the hush of the world unfurls like a soft blanket, we continue our quiet journey through the House of Lore. This evening, we drift closer to the space between thought and sensation, to where emotions are not just felt, but traced gently and with care. The body, ever pulsing with activity, creates quiet rhythms, tiny signals whispered through nerves and subtle waves. These signals are not unlike the radio waves that slip unnoticed through the walls of our homes, invisible yet everywhere. Our brains produce these delicate electric dances waves of thought and experience. Scientists call them alpha, beta, theta, and delta waves. Gentle fluctuations of voltage mapped in curving lines across screens. It all begins inside the skull, where billions of neurons communicate with soft electric pulses. As we feel, dream, or reflect, the energy patterns shift, painting invisible shapes of joy, of calm, or even of sadness. Just like a radio dial tuning into different stations, our minds transition through sleep and focus, relaxation and awareness. An alpha wave might rise during peaceful moments, serene and slow. A crescendo of beta waves might arrive with concentration, and quieter theta waves may guide the first steps toward dream. Devices such as EEGs allow gentle mapping of these signals. Little adhesive sensors rest softly on the scalp. No pain, no intrusion, only listening to the quiet shapes of a current that never stops. These gentle graphs, their curves rising, dipping, can sometimes reveal more than words. They show how the mind stirs, how it breathes and settles, and occasionally how it finds its silence. Pause for a moment and consider this. Right now, your own mind is tracing patterns in silence. Without knowing it, you're crafting waves, soft as rain on a quiet roof. Each emotion has its own contour, and every thought its own ripple. The heart, too, beats with rhythm and hidden code. Connected by nervous whispers, it partners with the brain in a dance of feedback and response. With the help of slow, thoughtful technology, we can now observe how our heartbeat shifts when we breathe deeply, or remember a moment of peace. Tiny sensors, gently placed, can reveal the ebb and flow of our emotional tides. They do not read the heart itself, but simply receive its gentle patterns. Calmness, it seems, has a shape. So too does stress. So too do the quiet moments in between. And so, some have begun to listen more deeply, to use this map not to analyze harshly, but to soften, to soothe, and to guide. There are tools now, small, quiet companions you might wear on your wrist or beneath your clothes. They do not buzz or blink, but simply notice. With warmth and symmetry, they track the slow turns of breath, the pace of the heart, and the calm patterns of focus. And gently they respond. A mild vibration may suggest a pause. A light may offer the suggestion of stillness. These are not commands. but invitations, quiet partners in an ancient rhythm. In this way, technology becomes less of a watcher and more of a mirror offering not judgment, but awareness. When used with kindness and intention, these tools can guide us gently back to that still center. So, tonight, as your breath draws deeper and your heart finds its own tempo, know that even now, currents flow within you, soft signals of thought and feeling, each with its own silent shape. And in this stillness, let them pass over you, like waves on calm water, quiet, effortless, and true. In the hush between moment, there are waves we cannot see, yet they drift around us, always, invisible threads woven into the air itself. They are radio waves, whispers of energy gliding gently through space, carrying echoes of sound, snippets of speech, and the softest flickers of image. We think of sound as something we hear directly, but these radio waves are an invisible path, a means by which sound and music and the warmth of a familiar voice can travel quietly without ever making a sound of their own. They are not sound themselves, but signals translated into waves and then on arrival, converted once more into something we recognize. The radio on your nightstand, the one with the glowing dial. It listens intently, tuned to just the right frequency, waiting to catch a specific message adrift in air. This is how music can find its way to you without a single wire to guide it. Stepping back, we find ourselves immersed in what's called the electromagnetic spectrum, a quiet ocean of dancing, shifting waves, from radio waves with their long and gentle stride, all the way to gamma rays, moving in tight and energetic bursts. Each type carries its own message, its own energy, unseen by our eyes, but real and everywhere. Wireless communication, a marvel of the modern world, leans fully on this orchestra of waves. Without them, there would be no whispers between satellites and Earth, no calls with distant loved ones, no calm music floating into your room at night. Devices gently hum, always listening, tuning in to specific slices of this spectrum, ignoring all else, like a cat listening only for the sound of its name. And what's most extraordinary is how this silent conversation of waves parallels our search for the unseen. Just as radio signals move invisibly through your walls, undetected by your eyes, dark matter too may drift quietly through the universe, beyond all direct observation. You feel none of it, yet the signals arrive. You don't see the waves, but you hear the voice. Much like dark matter, these waves are known not by seeing but by their influence, by the way they shape what is heard, what is shown, and what we believe is present, even when our eyes remain unaware. As you rest, soft beneath your blanket, remember that even in stillness, a serene ballet of signals dances all around you. They do not disturb, they do not crowd, they simply pass, light as breath, carrying stories over the hush of great distances. Waves in the quiet, carrying unseen meaning from one mind to another in the gentlest of ways. In the vast quiet of the night sky, a mystery swims beneath the stars. It does not shine. It does not glow. And yet it weaves the fabric of the universe with silent influence. This is the realm of dark matter. Dark matter is not a shadowy substance in some hidden corner of space. It's something more elusive. A puzzle that doesn't announce itself, but instead leaves fingerprints, subtle gravitational imprints on everything around it. We cannot see it with telescopes, We cannot touch it. But we know it must be there. The story begins with a question. Why do galaxies spin the way they do? When we observe their spiraling arms, mathematics tells us that something doesn't add up. The stars at the outer edges move far too quickly, faster than they should given the amount of visible mass. If only the stars, gas, and dust were present, the galaxies would fly apart. And yet, they don't. They hold together. To explain this cosmic defiance, astronomers proposed a hidden companion, one that does not emit light, but still exerts gravity. Dark matter. It fills in the missing mass. A silent scaffold that supports the galaxy's structure. Another whisper from the unseen comes from a phenomenon known as gravitational lensing. Einstein showed us that massive objects bend the path of light. Like a curved mirror, gravity warps space itself. When astronomers observe distant galaxies and their light arrives slightly distorted, they ask, what caused this bending? Sometimes, the visible mass along the journey isn't enough to account for it. Something else is shaping the light. Again, we infer the presence of dark matter. A ghostly lens between light and eye. We are measuring the invisible, not with sight, but with mathematics. Careful equations draw out the outlines of an unseen world. By observing how stars orbit, by tracking arcs of light bent from afar, we glimpse the contours of dark matter. It remains hidden not by darkness but by silence. And yet it speaks through mass, through motion, and through the elegant laws of gravity. Imagine a dance where only some of the dancers can be seen. The rest are cloaked, but the movement reveals their presence. The visible must respond to the pull of the unseen. Galaxies whirl in patterns shaped not just by what we can observe, but by that which lies beyond our gaze. In this quiet corner of the universe, mathematics becomes our lantern. Its soft glow helps trace the outlines of the unknown. Not everything that exists can be touched or seen, but with the right questions and the right equations, we can feel the invisible push of something profound. As you drift into sleep, your thoughts might wander to distant stars and the quiet presence of dark matter surrounding them. A silent companion, ancient and enduring, shaping the universe from the shadows. Felt through gravity, revealed through math, and always gently watching from the dark, in the hush of the unknown, where shadows merge with silence, numbers quietly watch. They do not shout. They do not chase. They wait with patient certainty on the edge of the invisible, always ready to measure what we cannot see, to hold in place what cannot be touched. Mathematics, in its quiet devotion, becomes a kind of script written not by poets, but by the universe itself. We do not stumble into its patterns. We uncover them as if brushing dust from a forgotten glass. Consider this. When we look into the night sky, we see stars glowing, far older than our own memories. But hidden in the dark between them are forces invisible to the eye: gravity, expansion, radiation, time itself slipping quietly forward. And yet, mathematics is there, mapping the orbits we cannot follow, calculating the decay of forgotten particles, estimating the warmth of stars long gone. Each equation, a lantern placed carefully on a foggy path. Why does it comfort us, this act of measuring what we cannot see? Perhaps it is the whisper that nothing is truly unknowable, only waiting to be interpreted. And mathematics listens, without fear, without demand, Through all the centuries, we have used its language to make sense of things we couldn't yet imagine. The shape of sound, the tension of bridges, the rhythm of tides and time zones, the journey of a falling apple, the orbit of a moving planet. It is not just about answers, but about approach, about quietly reaching out with symbols that might, if we listen closely, echo truth. Even the idea of zero, once feared, became a quiet revolution, a placeholder in emptiness that lets us know exactly where we are, or infinity, not as something loud or endless, but as a direction, a horizon without a line, patiently walked by numbers that never grow tired. We will likely never hold dark matter in our hands, never touch the folds of a cosmic string, but there are equations, calm, steady, luminous, that suggest they're there. We sketch these invisible truths not in color or ink, but in logic. Gentle, unfolding structures that hum just beneath our daily routines. Each time we assign value to the immeasurable, we reduce fear. We say, here is a name, here is a guide, here is a lighthouse in the fog, made not of light, but of understanding. In this way, measurement becomes more than numbers. It becomes care, attention, a quiet certainty passed from one generation to the next, asking not for belief, but for curiosity. So let us rest in the comfort that even in the vast, invisible dark, there are numbers in the mist, watching gently, listening closely, keeping their place, so we may find ours. Night has a language all its own. It speaks in hushes and distances, echoing gently through darkened air, where form fades and edges melt into shadow. Yet within that vast stillness, there is something quiet and kind, a presence that watches and waits and understands. Somewhere in the hush comes a gentle sense of knowing. There is comfort in knowing, even in the absence of light, even when shapes escape the eyes. It is the comfort of understanding where things are, of having measured the hallway in steps, the corner by heart, the ceiling by the angle of its hush. Even when not seen, they are there, and we know them still. This is the poetry of invisible measurement, of trust earned through experience, built slowly with care. Like the familiar creak at the fifth stair, the quiet echo that answers from the back wall, or the soft consistency of breath in a nearby room. Each one is a marker, a gentle echo of knowing, not because they are visible, but because they've been measured inwardly, folded into the memory of safety. In the darkness, we are not lost. We are nested inside unseen certainties, the pillow pressed just so, the blanket's weight across the side, the outline of things not obscured by the dark, but revealed gently through knowledge. Even silence offers clues, the way it shifts between walls and windows, how it changes after midnight's turn. Silence, too, is a kind of measure. There is an ease that grows from this, a lightness of heart that lets us sleep, not because we understand all things, but because we understand just enough, enough to soften the mystery, enough to cradle wonder without fear. The unseen world is not a threat. It hums softly with possibility, like morning waiting beneath the stars. We measure it gently, with breath, with rhythm, with memory, and in doing so, we are part of its poetry. A chair in a dark room does not need to be seen to be known. Its presence, clear in imagination, sits quietly and unchanged. This is the power of the mind's quiet geometry, mapping what the eye has set down so the soul may never lose it. And so we move even in darkness with the grace of knowing. You see, the invisible doesn't ask to be feared. It only asks to be respected. To be met not with panic, but with a calm inquiry. A soft pause. A whisper of understanding. From that meeting comes peace. Let this be our resting thought, that even in uncertainty there is calm, that even in the dark we are not alone in the measure of things, and even what we cannot see can still be deeply known. In the hush of these final moments, let us journey once more through the soft corridors of thought, where wonder does not demand answers, only presence. The quiet science of our world isn't only written in facts and formulas, it's whispered in the still air between stars, in the curious hush before a child asks a question, in the floating pause of a dream not yet taken flight. There are things we cannot hold, ideas too delicate, too vast for hands or even names. Time is one, gravity another, love, memory, light, mystery. And yet, we've made tools gentle instruments to trace their shape, observatories that cradle light from galaxies far older than Earth, mathematics that sketch the rough outlines of black holes, tiny curls of glass that focus our sight beyond what flesh can see. All these extensions of ourselves into the unknown. We often imagine science as a sharp line pushing forward, always more, always away. But in its quietest places, it is more like a circular breath. Inhale the question, exhale the possibility. A telescope turned outward also reflects inward. A measured spectrum carries both the light of a quasar and the echo of your own curiosity. Isn't it strange how equations can become lullabies? How the charting of cosmic dust could feel like tucking in a restless thought. Those who dream with numbers, those who search without finding, they carry lanterns through the dark, not to banish the shadows, but simply to see, to listen, to be still and stay awake in awe until the night carries them gently into rest. So now, you too may rest. Let your breath become slower. Let the questions drift, soft and unfinished, for wonder, dear listener, does not end in answers, it ends in quiet. And in that quiet, you are free. As our story draws near its gentle close, let us take a moment to drift together into the stillness. The world has quieted outside, and now, so can we. Your thoughts, once lively companions on a journey through memory and mystery, now drift like small boats across a vast peaceful sea, each one bobbing lightly, settling with the tide, waiting for rest. There is no need to hold tightly to them. Let them come and let them go. Like waves that never ask to be understood, only felt, before returning to the wide embrace of silence. In this moment, you are resting in the company of what can't be seen, yet somehow is known. Wisdom that lives beneath the surface of memory. Stories woven into the hush of night. Ideas you once heard in passing, but that stayed. Quiet, familiar, always there. Feel a light warmth of gratitude for these thoughts, not for their precision, but for their presence. How remarkable it is that even the invisible can nurture us. So now, dear listener, we release the day's tether. It need not weigh us, nor rush us. Instead, we surrender to the rhythm of rest, a measured sleep, steady and full, like a lullaby whispered through ancient trees, each breath a quiet ceremony, returning you gently to yourself. This is not the end of wonder, but its soft lantern dimming, so your dreams may hold it with care, and carry it into the still hours of the night. Let it go now. Let it all go. You are safe to rest. You are free to sleep. And when you return, the story will be here, still waiting, still warm. Good night. Outside, beyond stone walls and quiet hearths, a restless presence stirs the leaves. It moves unseen, though we feel it on our cheeks, hear its whisper through the trees, and watch as clouds drift and sails billow dot. This presence is the wind, a traveler with no form. Yet its footprints are everywhere dot. For much of human history, the wind was known only by touch and by sight. The way it bent the boughs, the way it pressed against the sea dot. In the soft hush of the past, early sailors raised their gazes and watched as gust and gale filled their sails. Farmers looked to the skies, hoping for breezes gentle enough to bring rain, but not strong enough to flatten the harvest. And monks in towers, watching the weather vane turn, would whisper of storms brewing far away dot. But even as we learned to sense the wind, we couldn't quite measure it, not precisely, not yet dot. To understand the wind fully, people needed a way to give it numbers, not just names like breeze or gale. We needed tools that could grasp the weight of the unseen dot. One of the first to try was Leon Battista Alberti, an Italian polymath of the Renaissance. In the 15th century, he created a simple device, a disc that turned in the wind, giving a rough sense of its force. While basic, it marked an important shift from observing the wind to measuring it. Still, much remained unknown. We needed something more refined. Centuries later, in 1450s Europe, the earliest concepts of the anemometer began to appear. The word itself comes from the Greek anemos, meaning wind. The term would grow to encompass numerous designs. But in 1846, a man named John Thomas Romney Robinson created a version that would become iconic, a hollow cup anemometer. 4 semi-spherical cups mounted on horizontal arms, spinning on a vertical shaft. As the wind picked up, so did the spin, faster and faster still. By counting the revolutions over time, one could finally quantify the breeze. It was a quiet revolution, this cup-based dance. It bridged the gap between experience and understanding. Today, we know that wind is the movement of air from areas of high pressure to low, sculpted by Earth's rotation, and the rise and fall of warm and cold. Yet even now, millions of devices across mountaintops, oceans, and open plains continue the same simple work, spinning softly, watching the breeze. Not trying to tame it, just listening, carefully. This is the weight of wind, not found in pounds or kilograms, but in motion and movement and time. In a world filled with motion and matter, some forces drift quietly, just beyond the reach of our eyes. Heat, pressure, vibrations deep beneath our feet. Long before direct observation was possible, humans invented tools to sense the invisible, to translate the silent whispers of the natural world into something tangible, something we might one day understand. Among these first instruments was the barometer, a curious device born from the study of air pressure. In the 17th century, a simple column of mercury stood tall in a glass tube, balanced by the invisible push of atmospheric weight. When the air grew heavy, the mercury rose. And when the sky lightened, the silver pool would fall, like a tide responding to a secret moon. With time, these readings became more than curiosities. They became predictive. The movement of the mercury could warn of storms on the horizon, or speak of clear skies ahead. Scientists and sailors, farmers and healers, all began to listen. And though barometers measured pressure, they revealed so much more. An altered atmosphere might mean a change in temperature, a coming heat wave, or a cooling breath from the north. The unseen world spoke through the thin needle of a dial, or the rise and fall of liquid in a fragile tube. In a quiet room, another kind of listening took place. A doctor would lean close, holding a device to the chest. At first a tube, and later an instrument with chest and earpieces, opening pathways to inner rhythms. The stethoscope brought the heartbeat into focus, translating invisible pulses into audible truth. A soft thump, a flowing breath, the steady rhythm of life itself. Then there were the distant tremors. Earth's steady sleeping hum, sometimes broken by sudden cries. Seismographs began tracing these quiet murmurs, marking their paths onto rolls of paper. Dark ink lines gently curling, or fiercely jolting forward with violent grace. Through these recordings, even the planet's deepest shifts came closer to us, becoming something we could name, track, and begin to anticipate. Each tool became a translation of something unseen into something drawn, heard, measured. From air pressure to sound, to the slow movements of stone beneath miles of earth. These instruments gave body to forces once felt only as intuition. In every quiet corner of science, in every dusty laboratory and storm-watched hillside, the tools whispered back. They told stories of changes unseen, of waves passing through oceans of air, of tension building far beneath the ground, of heat not always burning brightly, but hiding in the pressure, in the shift, in the sound. And so, when we speak of measuring temperature and its hidden energy, we speak not only of thermometers and numbers, but also of the barometer, the stethoscope, the seismograph, tools that offered a bridge from the unknown to the known. In the quiet moments, when sunlight fades behind soft curtains and the air carries a hush of ending day, there is something far older and gentler still at work, a whisper beneath our fingertips, the tender touch of warmth, heat. So simple in its name, yet so invisible, so deeply wound into the thread of time. We don't often see it, but we sense it constantly. The way a blanket cradles the chill away, the slow drift of warmth from a mug held between palms. These are quiet signals of a world moving, even in stillness. Long ago, people had only their senses to describe it, this gentle changeling that could turn the air icy or inviting. But they knew it was there. They knew the fire meant safety. They knew the cold meant caution. And from that wordlessness, curiosity sparked. The earliest interpreters of warmth were often craftsmen and thinkers, part alchemists, part observers. They watched water bubble in pots and candles melt their wax, learning with their hands what they couldn't yet clearly measure. Then, quietly, the thermometer arrived. Delicate glass tubes filled with colored spirits or shining mercury. These simple tools became the first true listeners of heat. They didn't speak, but they told the world's body temperature in language we could follow. Rising and falling like tides, the figures they gave us helped chart the air, the body, the seasons themselves. With them came the understanding that heat is motion. Tiny particles dancing faster when warmed, slower when cooled. Invisible energy pressed into everything around us. Heat isn't light and yet it glows against the skin. It isn't sound and yet it hums in the comfort of a cozy room. It is a messenger of change, of presence, of time softly passing by. Temperature, then, is the mark it leaves behind. A quiet number that tells us whether the world around is calm or shifting. It's something we check without thinking. A glance at the weather. A hand to the brow. It becomes part of our rhythm. An invisible handshake with the hours. And so heat, like time, stays hidden, yet always known. It eases behind walls, through blankets, into soups and winds. Measured not just by instruments, but by instinct and memory. In the stillness of night, when there's no need for clocks or calendars, you'll know time has passed because the room holds a different warmth. The day's energy fades, the air cools just so, and sleep begins to fold around you. All of it made clear by the soft whisper of heat. Time, forever flowing. Unseen, and yet we live by its rhythm. You cannot hold it in your hands, nor can you gaze upon it directly, but still you feel it passing. Sunrise. Sunset. The soft lengthening of shadows over stone, the scent of earth changing with the season, all subtle reminders. Time is here. Long before clocks, before calendars or bells, our ancestors watched the skies, the journeys of the moon, the patterns of stars. The rise and resting of the sun became a sacred rhythm. Time was found in the dew on morning grass, in the blooming of a flower with the promise of warmth. It was traced on the bark of trees, counted in the rings hidden deep within, and sound, too, marks the passage. Think of the distant call of an owl at twilight, not announcing the time on a dial but sensing it. The quiet hush of early morning, when the world seems to pause between moments. Or the gentle creak of an old floorboard in a sleeping house. Whispering stories of long-forgotten hours. In ancient temples, great water clocks dripped slowly, drop by drop, into waiting stone bowls, echoing chambers carved to measure the flow. Each sound not loud, but precise. Sand through glass, grain by grain. The hourglass became a visual echo of time, but it was the soft whoosh of descent, the light patter on glass that reminded listeners of its presence. Later came the ticking of clocks. Measured. Precise. Unchanging. Not a melody, but a patterned beat. A mechanical whisper marking each heartbeat spent. Tick, tick, tick. Each one drawing the invisible closer, each one a bridge between the now and the then. Time may not speak, but it leaves echoes. A faded photograph worn at the edges. A tree bent under the memory of many winters. A lullaby passed from voice to voice over generations. It is in the soft wear of the stone steps you climb. The weather-smoothed wood of the chair you sit upon, marks of lives lived, and hours passed gently by. At night, when all else grows still, time hums along with the silence, a presence just beside you, never pushing, only flowing, ever steady, ever soft, wherever you are. Listen, not for a voice nor a bell, but the little shifts, the light fade of day, the slow hush of wind through trees. They are not time itself, but trail behind it, and so we follow, not by sight, but by the echo in our hearts, measured in moments, felt rather than seen. This is the gentle passage of time. Sound is not only something we hear, but something we feel. Measured in units called decibels, sound weaves an invisible map of loudness and quietude. Each decibel is a step on a logarithmic scale, meaning that an increase of just 10 decibels represents a sound 10 times more intense. A whisper, at around 30 decibels, brushes just above silence, while a passing train might climb to 100, a roar that fills the air. Yet no matter the volume, these sounds begin the same way, with a vibration. Vibrations move through the air, the ground, and even through water. They travel until they reach something that can listen an ear. A microphone, or a cliff wall waiting to echo. The smallest movements, too faint for the eye, carry stories about the world through waves of pressure and return in reflection. Measuring through reflection means listening, not just to what is presented, but to what returns. One pulse sent outward, and another smaller finds its way back. Echo and answer in a still room. True silence rarely exists. Even the quietest spaces contain soft vibrations, the hum of electricity, the slow expansion of wood in the walls, and the nearly imperceptible sound of the breath within your own chest. Here, noise is not an intrusion, but a reminder we are always part of a moving, sounding system. Silence has shape too. It is the absence of certain frequencies, the pause between notes and the void where sound has been absorbed rather than reflected. This ability of sound to reveal what's beneath the surface is not reserved for music or conversation. Oceanographers map the sea floor by studying how sonar pulses bounce back, sketching unseen terrain beneath the water. Bats call into the night, and the echoes build a picture in flight. We measure depth with reflected light, shifts in frequency, and the cooling hum of space between. Every vibration brings information, a signal quiet or loud signing to us through the air. Whether the song of a bird or the groan of a glacier shifting in its ancient bed, each carries news waiting in the wave. No need to rush to interpret. Just listen to how sound touches everything it meets. The world speaks, even in silence. Though our eyes guide us by day and often even by night, not all sight relies upon light. There are creatures and machines that see by sound. They listen instead of look, sending out signals, waiting for echoes, and shaping mental images based on invisible return paths. It is a way of knowing, a perception built from patience, motion, and reverberation. In the velvet dark beneath the surface of the sea, where sunlight fades into stillness, submarines glide through mediating layers of cold water, their vision, not lenses but waves. Beams of sound ripple forward, gentle pulses moving through the depths. When they bounce back, the reflections are read, mapped, interpreted. Through sonar, short for sound navigation, and ranging submarines describe the hidden world around them. Rocky ledges, distant vessels, walls of terrain. Every returning echo brings a trace, a whisper of presence. Like the clicks of dolphins and the fluttering radar of bats, these echoes build dimension. A story of space unfolds, stitched from timing and texture, a delicate dance of transmission and reply. Now imagine standing in a canyon, your voice carried forward, then curling back to you moments later. You're not just hearing your own sound, but the shape of the world itself. Its size, its curve, the hardness of stone, the emptiness of the air between. This is passive echolocation, a tapestry of reflected sound, revealed gradually, like candlelight in a wide, unfamiliar room. Not only animals, but humans, too, are capable of this auditory frontier. Through gentle training, some who are blind can use this form of echo, tiny tongue clicks, subtle footsteps to locate doorways, trees, sidewalks, and stairs. They measure not by sight, but by the responses space gives back. As we rest in stillness tonight, let us wander gently through these unseen methods of knowing, where perception is quiet, subtle, and guided by the invisible reach of sound. A wave returns, and with it, the world. As we settle deeper into the quiet hours, consider this simple truth, that much of the world around us is made of things we cannot see. Take light, for example. Something so familiar, so comforting, whether it's the soft glow of a lamp or the golden warmth of the morning sun. Yet, light is more than what meets the eye. Our eyes, remarkable as they are, can only sense a narrow band, a tiny slice of a much grander spectrum. Imagine a rainbow, stretched from one end of the sky to another. Now imagine there are colors on either side of that rainbow. Colors that whisper instead of shout, that dance quietly beyond our seeing. These are the colors our eyes can't see. Just beyond the red end of the rainbow lies infrared light. It's not visible, but we feel its gentle warmth on our skin when sunlight touches us. Special cameras, infrared cameras, reveal a hidden world of heat. They allow us to see where warmth lingers, in the wake of a footstep left behind on a wooden floor, or the fading heat of the sun on a rooftop at twilight. These images shimmer in gradients of color, bright oranges and violet blues that our minds assign to otherwise invisible rays. It is light, just not the kind we see. Now drift upward on the spectrum past the violet end of the rainbow. There you'll find ultraviolet light. To human eyes, ultraviolet is silent, but its presence can be felt, sometimes in the softness of sun-kissed skin, or in the way flowers guide pollinators with silent signals. Bees, with eyes unlike ours, see these signs clearly. Patterns painted in ultraviolet, leading them gently, like trails of light. In certain labs and telescopes, scientists have learned to capture ultraviolet signatures. Stars that appear white or yellow to us blaze in stunning blues and violets when viewed through ultraviolet lenses. These tools don't change the stars. They simply reveal something more, something hidden. Infrared and ultraviolet light remind us that the world is filled with radiant motion and meaning, even when we can't see it directly. This hidden light, this vibrant, invisible energy is always there, stretching around us, flowing through space, wrapping every leaf, every stone, every living thing. It is a gentle reminder, perhaps, that just like gravity, some of the most powerful elements in our universe move unheard, unseen, but always felt. So as you rest, let the thought settle in your mind that even in the quiet dark, the air around you shimmers with energy and color just beyond what the eye can touch. Gravity has no color, no sound, no scent or texture, yet it is always with us. A quiet companion, pulling gently down, guiding raindrops to the earth, holding oceans to their basins, and anchoring each step we take. This silent force we call gravity is, in every moment, a part of our story. From the arc of a thrown pebble to the stillness of a stone upon the soil, gravity shapes the path of all things. We feel it without noticing. The pull beneath our feet, steady and sure. A reassuring pressure that tells us where down lives. And still, for much of human history, this invisible presence remained mysterious. Long before satellites and space probes, we began to measure gravity with quiet tools, a weight, a string, a pendulum's swing. In the hush of early observatories, these simple devices swung back and forth, tracing nature's rhythm. The pendulum especially became a soft-spoken messenger. Foucault's simple demonstration in the 19th century showed us something profound. As a pendulum slowly turned its plane of swing, the earth gently turned beneath it. It was gravity, patient and ever-present, that brought the pendulum back to its lowest point. Over and over. Like a lullaby in motion, measuring gravity meant measurement of time, of length of weight. How long a pendulum takes to complete its swing depends not only on its length but on gravity's subtle pull. The heavier earth pulls gently, yet not equally in every place. Mountains, minerals, density changes below, each leaves a faint fingerprint. And so, gravity whispers secrets about the shape of the land beneath our feet. More recently, we've begun listening for gravity's smallest murmurs, ripples across immense spans of space-time called gravitational waves. These waves, too faint for any instinct to feel, arrive when vast objects like black holes or neutron stars collide. To hear such things, we built detectors of extraordinary stillness. Places like LIGO, where lasers race down vacuumed corridors, bouncing off mirrors kept so still they respond to shifts smaller than a proton's width. When a gravitational wave passes, it stretches and shrinks space itself. But so gently, so quietly. Like a breeze across the cosmos, felt only by the most delicate of instruments. In many ways, these waves are not unlike the gentle hum of electromagnetism. Both invisibly present, both shaping our universe in ways we are only beginning to perceive. The whisper of gravity, steady underfoot. The unseen current of electromagnetism, humming softly through every wire, every field of light and motion. Tonight, as you drift through soft thoughts and quiet breath, gravity remains your constant companion, holding you close. Gently. Always. A still presence. The pull beneath your feet and the promise of rest that comes from its quiet strength.